I know that's quite a controversial take, but I respectfully don't think that English spawned in your head. And I'm ready to explain why. Recently, I've been seeing those TikToks like, when I realized German won't magically appear in my head just as English did. And then people keep sending me those asking, isn't that relatable? No. In this video, I'm going to tell you why I don't agree with this statement, and I'm also going to break it down how you can make other languages, as you call it, spawn in your head just as English did. Let's get right into it. Before starting, I'm a 20-year-old Turkish polyglot who speaks 9 languages and I have C certificates in most of them. And on this channel, I talk about stuff. And this question has really got my attention recently, so I just want to make a video about that because I think there are a lot of interesting insights to talk about. Here's the thing. I believe that many people have a really concerning misconception about how they learned English. They just think like they have never spent a single effort on learning English, and then one day, magically, out of nowhere, English appeared in their brains, and they use this to discourage themselves from learning other languages. They're like, this won't ever happen with Spanish anyway, so it makes no sense for me to keep studying Spanish. It's not English at the end, right? I just don't see the point here. First question I have, what makes you think English spawned in your head out of nowhere? We're literally living in a world that's dominated by this language, and English is the #1 language that's taught in any kind of institution around the world. So you can't just come up to me and tell you have never been explained English in a theoretical way, or you have never taken an English class, or you have never practiced English with people, or you have never consumed content in English. You did all of that, and that's why you can speak English. So let's get more theoretical. There are two things: language learning and language acquisition, as we call it Spracherwerb in German. I like it more than English version anyway. So language acquisition is mostly what babies do. And I have this firm belief that we tend to exaggerate the language learning abilities of babies. Like, if you're looking for an example that's going to inspire you to make progress in your language learning, respectfully go and find someone that's not a baby. Because you don't have the same capacities as a baby, and I mean it in a positive way. Babies, after hearing their surroundings and getting exposed to language literally whole time for like 3 and 4 years, can make proper sentences. And when a child actually starts to learn a language, actually speaks it, like closer to an adult is when they start school and when they learn the language. So I just believe that language acquisition and language learning go hand in hand. What you're trying to do is you're trying to learn a language like a baby. And this is the worst example that one can get to themselves. I'm not saying that language acquisition at the end is a bad thing. I believe most of my French is language acquisition. I literally knew every French song by heart. I was putting all the effort in it. I was consuming French media. I didn't have a Taylor Swift growing up. I was listening to French singers because I built my environment that way. And then I realized that it's not going to happen if I keep learning French like this. So I seriously started working on my French, and then I learned it super, super fast. And when I started speaking, my French was quite natural and authentic. So I think the most effective language learning comes from a combination of those two. The error that most of you are making here is only learning languages. You consume no content, like you're determined to consume no content in your target language. Because why would you? You already spend a lot of time learning Russian. You can't just go and listen to a Russian song or watch a movie because you already do this stuff in English, because Netflix is more interesting in English, right? That English will remain the only language that has spawned in your head. Let's address the elephant in the room. Some of you may be wondering if it's because the language that you're learning is more difficult than English. You have a point here. But let me tell you, I'm a Turkish person and my only native language is Turkish, which is not an Indo-European language. So while learning English, I literally had a way harder time than half of you who are watching this video. But still, since we get exposed to this language, whether we want it or not, at the end you don't have any other choice. If you're studying some English and if you consume some amount of media, then eventually you're going to be fluent in English. You can't escape from this. In order to get a French For You page on TikTok, you have to make efforts. You have to follow every French account that you see. You have to save their videos. But English, you can create a brand new TikTok account and it's going to be in English. You're going to get English videos. You don't make efforts for this. The most high quality content in terms of song, in terms of cinema, everything is in English. And I get your point. If it looks easier to master English, then it's to master German. But here, everything lies in your personal effort. So I believe that English is not a necessarily easy language. In my case, I had a hard time learning it, as many Turkish people. Right now, I'm learning Dutch, which is the easiest language that I have ever seen. But can I speak it fluently after 2.5 years? No. And it's not because Dutch is difficult, it's because it has two reasons. Because I can't get exposed to Dutch unless I make efforts for that, and I don't give necessary amount of time. And that also explains why many of you aren't still fluent in your target language, but fluent in English. Because you already have the background, the theoretical background when it comes to English, and you get exposed to English, whether you choose it or not. And at the end, you have an authentic English, you have a wide range of vocabulary, you know a lot of specific vocabulary to talk about something that you're interested in, and that's actually great. But my point, and what many people don't believe, is you can do this in other languages as well. Why would English be the only language that can magically spawn in your brain? It's literally a written and spoken language like any other in our modern world. What differentiates English from Spanish other than the fact that it's more widespread? And if that really keeps you back from being fluent in Spanish, it literally means two things. You should be spending more time learning it, you should be spending more time consuming it, and you should actually make efforts. Change the playlists, change the things that you're watching. Start following different people, different influencers. I know it takes a lot of time for the algorithm to actually change, and you are still going to have those English videos. It's literally in your hand. So what's the takeaway from this video? First things first, I don't deny that you may have learned English without quite realizing it, because I would also say that, yeah, I haven't been theoretically learning English for the last more than 5 years, but still my English keeps improving, and it's because of the media that I'm consuming in English, and I'm not someone who listens to like English songs or who watches English movies. I consume nearly 90% of my media in other language. So yeah, I understand your point. English is also something that develops more automatically in my head. But English is not the only language for which it's possible to do this. Because I believe that out of my language that I speak, I also did this with French. And it's exclusively because I grew up with French songs, with French media. And I totally understand that many of you are more interested in English media. When I think back at my times at middle school, yeah, I remember there was stuff happening, there were a lot of dramas and everything, but I don't know. I was more interested in French celebrities, French media, and I would be listening to French songs literally all the time. And that's what made French spawned in my head. But I also studied French, and that makes quite a big difference. So if you think English spawned in your head, just use it for your advantage. It means you are smart. It means that you can acquire language. Please start doing this with other languages as well, because otherwise you're wasting your potential. English is not a special language. You are the one who is giving it a lot of attention. Thanks for watching this video, and please let me know what you think about the whole thing in the comments. Bye.